Singing in the shower is practice. Singing while driving, although maybe not the safest thing to do, is practice. Singing lullabies to your children to get them to fall asleep is practice. It's a form of practice I like to call mindless practice, which sounds harsher than I mean it to, but what I mean is that you aren't focusing on what you're doing. You're just sort of singing and not really thinking about it. You're not focusing on it. It's mindless. Your subconscious is doing all the work. You're reinforcing neural pathways that you've already established, which is great for solidifying stuff that you already know. This is a really valuable form of practice that I think a lot of people discount or discredit. It's definitely still good, and it's definitely better than nothing if it's all you're able to do during the week. People are busy, you have lives. If you want to make real strides in your progress, however, it's best to do a bit of a mixture of this kind of practice and mindful practice. This is time where you are focusing on your technique. You're focusing on the sound and the sensations of singing. You're making adjustments as you go. You're creating new neural pathways. You're breaking things down and really getting into what it is that you want and trying to achieve it. Over time, you'll see this kind of work transferring into your mindless practice, so that when you're just singing in the shower, you're noticing, oh, this feels easier. So you can see how these two things kind of work together really, really nicely. Now let's talk about active and passive learning, which are related but definitely not the same thing. There are lots of different definitions of this online and it can be a bit confusing, but the definitions that kind of work for me and my brain are that passive learning is theory-based. It's taking on information. It's about gaining that knowledge rather than necessarily applying it. Whereas active practice is about taking that information and then transforming it into learned, active stuff that you can call upon time and time again. It's about sort of engaging fully with that stuff and seeing how it feels in your body, seeing how you can make that happen. In the voice studio, passive learning looks like the teacher giving information or having a discussion with the student where the student's maybe taking notes, or maybe it could look like you listening to something and having a conversation about it. Far more about the theory than it is about the active doing. Active learning looks like mindfully working through that stuff. It's the student singing and exploring their instrument and finding new coordinations and occasionally going, oh, I get it now. It's about applying ideas, concepts, asking questions and making adjustments as they go. I don't know where I first heard this, but I think it's so core to everything I've just talked about that I want to share it. I've heard the phrase or the saying, knowledge is only borrowed or rented until you figure it out for yourself. Gaining new insight, acquiring new information or tools, hearing about new concepts is all well and good, and it's definitely a great way to start your learning process. But that only really becomes something that you see the results of once you actually start using it and implementing it, or once you start realizing it for yourself. Now, the lines between active, passive, mindless, mindful, mostly active and passive, they can get a little blurry. For example, if a student is listening very intently to a piece of music, maybe a recording of themselves even, if they're listening really intently to that and thinking, oh, I could do that differently, or they're taking notes, they're making heavy analysis, is that really completely passive? Versus a student who is singing, but they're doing so mindlessly, they're thinking about what they're going to have for dinner. Is that really active? This is why I usually like to mix it up when I'm working with students. There is no right way. No one way is the way to do things. And certainly if you only practice in one way, you're probably going to limit how much you're able to achieve. If you want to achieve great things with your voice, but you're not sure where to start, please do feel free to send me a message. I would love to hear from you.